I'll be honest, because you open with that one story, I immediately, even in my head, I can't help it because I'm so inundated with social media. I thought it was going to be a very negative piece about how so many children shouldn't be going trans. But I read the entirety of your piece, and
the sports stuff you got in trouble for is a really good example, where the average person, including the average liberal.
Yes. And then they're going to look at like the left. That's unfortunately the communications are dominated by the far left. And they're saying things like, well, I don't know if we need women's sports, or, you know, is it really that big of a difference between men and women competing? Or right. And they're gonna be like, well, hold on, you guys are fucking crazy. And then you automatically cede so much ground to the right just because you don't want to acknowledge like some maybe a kind of uncomfortable truths about like what is real, like descriptively, that oh God, it drives me crazy.
I want to say you're just as like a shut-in who was bullied, I'm sure, and then used social justice stuff to start bullying other people.
Oh no. Yeah, I know him. He got in big trouble over the BLM riot stuff. Yeah, he got fired. I've said that exact quote so many times.
No, I did not.
No, I know, I'm joking. But like, there are so many parts of the Trump presidency that if you... Do you want to introduce yourself so people know who I'm talking to?
Yeah, my name's Jesse Singal. I'm a journalist. I've written about a lot of stuff. I worked at New York Magazine for a while. I have a book out called The Quick Fix: Why Fad Psychology Can't Cure Our Social Ills. And a lot of what I've done is sort of debunking bad or questionable social science. And some of that has veered over into the debate over trans kids. Mm-hmm. And I was alerted to the fact that you read my article on your stream, which I appreciated, because obviously probably more than I would like, that article to some people has sort of come to define me and is like seen as super controversial. But I don't think most of the people who read it find it that controversial. But I'm happy to go any direction you want with this whole topic.
Have you is this like your largest like public, I guess, like notoriety that you've gotten for doing any particular article? Like, have you ever had anything kind of like go viral or whatever like this article has? Or
no, I think it's like the article I'm known most for, and it's sort of, it probably launched certain aspects of my career. Like, I sort of hate the term heterodox thinker. Like, I want to do the jerk off motion whenever I say it, but I think that's what landed me in that space. And yeah, I think if there's any one article I'm known for, it's that one, which is unfortunate. I'd rather be known for my book or for some of the other stuff I wrote, but that's what it is because it's such a hot subject.
Mm-hmm. Have you, I'm just kind of interested because I've done streaming for 12 years now, and I'm very familiar with how these landscapes kind of evolve over time. But yeah, I'm kind of curious if, because you're somebody that comes from, I imagine, did you go to school for journalism or anything? Or have you always been doing like journalist type work?
I've always been doing it. My degrees are in philosophy, and then I did like a master's in public policy, so I could be better at the stat stuff. But yeah, always on that general track.
Gotcha. So it's interesting to me because the way that like media gets, I guess, like disseminated, the way that all the messages flow through social media is incredibly interesting, to where, and I'm sure you've noticed this if you haven't already, the vast majority, when I say vast majority, like 95% of the people that are going to be critiquing you for things that you've written probably haven't read more than a 1 or 2 sentence
excerpt. It's insane.
Excerpt. Yeah,
man. Yeah, I actually the newly zombified version of Gawker just published something yesterday where they the other thing I should have mentioned is I co-host a podcast with Katie Herzog, Blocked and Reported. That's my main gig. They just published something where they just sort of lied about what I said, and they won't correct it. And there's this weird dynamic that I'm sure you've experienced. So I'm not on Twitch. I don't do streams, but I'm mostly on Twitter. It's probably true that 90% of the people who yell at you on Twitter are mad at like a ghost version of you or your work that does not bear any resemblance to what you've read. And I'd imagine, my sense is you're enmeshed in these sort of like lefty YouTube and Twitch communities that are very pathological and dysfunctional. And my sense is there's a lot of that going on where you are too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not even like a ghost version of what you're saying. It's a carefully constructed version by the people that are taking you in the worst ways possible.
Yeah.
And it's so incredibly frustrating because you end up, sorry, there's like a million different ways you can go from here. I'm trying to keep the conversation focused because I don't want to have another conversation about how annoying the media landscape has become for everything.
Well, let me just give a quick example. I don't want to talk over you, but when I was trying to research you, I was trying to figure out why
oh God,
you got banned from Twitch. And I quickly came across a viral tweet saying that you mocked a woman for her bottom surgery. and it was linked to a video clip. I watched that one. I watched the next one. It just didn't. The thing they said happened in the click they were linking to did not happen.
Yeah, and I would never do this. Like, if you can afford bottom surgery, that's awesome. That's amazing. There's like almost no trans people that have the ability to actually, and bottom surgery's come a long way in terms of what doctors are able to do. So yeah, it's just it's so incredibly frustrating because when I got into internet debating, I guess, politics, back in 2016, nobody was really doing politics on Twitch. And I kind of wanted to, with Trump and everything, I was like, wow, there's a lot of public conversations about stuff that are so bad. Maybe I can, come in and have better conversations. That was, in my naivety, I believed that.
Yeah.
But it's so annoying because like there are so few good conversations happening in regards to like anything political, because all of the conversations are just between like people and then the worst strawman versions of what other people are saying. So like, even if there is some behavior, because I'm far from perfect, and depending on how much you Google,
don't say that. That's not true. Come on.
Yeah. Like I'm not so delusional that I'm gonna say I've never made a mistake or I haven't said dumb things or even had bad positions. I absolutely have in the past, but I don't even really get to honestly engage with those conversations because it's more just like, why are you the most Nazi-fied, fascist, hateful, transphobic piece of shit? And it's like, okay, well, I don't think I'm any of those things. So the conversations are so bad. I read there were 2 articles that were posted in response to yours. Oh, I should have had these links handy, but I'm sure you've seen some of like the written replies to stuff you've done, but man,
I've racked up some impressive corrections from like Slate, and there's some outlets will actually correct shit when you're just like, I never said that anywhere, but a lot of them won't, and it's frustrating. And like you're saying, there's a lot of shit we should be talking about. Like I think like I'm generally pro youth transition in that I think some kids should get access to blockers and hormones, but it's like it's a pretty big deal. Like it's a big decision, and to treat it as anything but that, you're sort of, it's like a pretty shallow form of allyship to say like, no, don't worry about it. The treatments are fine. The treatments are safe. We know that. It's like you're not actually helping anybody. And what I found most frustrating is that the people who misrepresent me, I always ask them, what is it exactly you disagree with me? Like, leak me the fucking screenshot.
Big mistake.
Yes.
It's not about your exact thing. It's the overall tone and just like everything you stand. Like you'll never get a link to that ever. Yeah.
Well, it's because you know who else asked for evidence is Hitler. Constant Hitler move. No, it's just I come from like a very naive fucking philosophy major background where I'm like, I know this sounds incredibly naive, but I honestly think the shrieking banshees on Twitter, if I was at a bar with them and bought them a beer and was like, let's talk about the disagreement, it would not be a very exciting conversation. It would, like, a lot of the disagreement is in the weeds over pretty subtle issues, but when it's like Nazis versus anti-fascists, everything seems more exciting, and we have this weird spectator sport on Twitter that's really like professional wrestling more than anything. It's not actual discourse.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I do have, because I talk to so many people, I do get the lived experience of like, well, what is it like to actually talk to the people that disagree with you? And it is like that. It's almost every time it's really boring. Generally, for my conversations, it boils down to, okay, Destiny, I'll say Steven is my name, but online I'm Destiny, right? But it'll be like, okay, Destiny, I agree with every single thing you said, but you were kind of mean when you said it, which is like, okay, exactly. That's fair. Yeah, I am kind of an asshole sometimes, but like, I'm not a transphobic, homophobic, misogynistic, Nazi, fascist monster, right? There's a difference.
I saw this happening to you because you were accused of harassing someone. The other way they'll distract from like saying their actual disagreement is like, well, you quote retweeted someone. And then people were mad at them, so you launched a pile on. It's just the rule, but then if they quote retweet you and people yell at you, that's not. It's just it's Calvin ball. There's no actual rules. All they're doing is trying to figure out a way to not have a conversation with you and to not treat you as like a potentially flawed human being, but a human being, not just the avatar of evil transphobic bigotry.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Which is frustrating, to say the least. So I guess in terms of finding your article, so trans issues are in some ways are difficult for me to understand because I'm not trans. I don't think. I arguably maybe I might be non-binary. I'm not sure. I've gone back and forth on the past, but I don't know.
What makes it? I'm genuinely curious about that because I find some of the I do find some of the stuff confusing. When you say you might be non-binary, what do you mean?
I don't know, because I've seen like 15 different definitions of non-binary, so I'm not sure. Something that I've talked about for a long time, before I really even got into trans stuff, is I don't have like a particular attachment to my gender. I don't really see myself as like, if I were to think of like all the traits related to me, or if I were to like think of like all the things about myself, like being a male or man, it's not like a thing that I really think or care about. Like if I woke up tomorrow and if I had to live life as a woman, I don't really think I would care that much. I've said that in the past, and then some people say like, oh, well, this sounds non-binary, so maybe. I've also heard some people describe non-binary as being like somebody that has like a more gender fluidity. They go between masculine and feminine. So I don't know. That's why I say I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. Yeah. But I think that like largely I would say that like I don't really have like a severe trans experience. So I have to rely on emails from fans and stuff and reading other people's experiences to figure out, how do I navigate these conversations, because I can't know intuitively how you feel. So I have to ask you guys how you feel, right? You tell me your experiences. And then as part of like the whole conversation, I came across, there are very few publications that I trust these days. But two that I tend to have a pretty high regard for are, I really like profile pieces out of the New Yorker. And I generally like long form pieces from the Atlantic. And so in the course of me like doing my research and my studying of all the kid puberty blockers, everything, these conversations, I came across your article. And I started reading it, and I'll be honest, because you open with that one story, I immediately, even in my head, I can't help it because I'm so inundated with social media, I thought it was going to be a very negative piece about how so many children shouldn't be going trans because people are, everybody wants to detransition and everything. But I read the entirety of your piece, and Jesus, I'm sorry, my thing is, I read the entirety of your piece and I was like, oh, I think this is a really interesting piece, because I think you do, and I'm sure you were cognizant of it writing it. You must have been, because you get so many different quotes and so many sources and so many things. I think that you're very cognizant of when you were putting it together, of like, you're not trying to present this like picture that like trans people are evil and forcing everybody to transition, and we need to like super slow down on this. I think there are multiple points in the article where you reaffirm the importance of gender affirming care, how important it is to get people like, so I read through the whole article. I thought it was a really good read. I didn't share it with my audience at the time because, one, because it was a long read. It was like an hour and a half, I think. And then two, because it's very, very, very hard in trans discourse to bring up anything related to desisting or detransitioning, because it's very, very difficult to do it.
And I mean, and you can see why, because I think a lot of like people who benefited from transitioning, they see it as an attack on them. And I can understand that rationally, but that is different from the question of like what scientific information we should give people, or what we should tell the parents of a 4-year-old kid who just came out as trans.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There's I think that around these particular issues, it's not really these particular issues, it's every issue. Something that's kind of happened broadly with political discourse is, so one thing that I talk about a lot is separating like the process from the outcome. That there are outcomes that we want to achieve in society, right? We want to make people happier, healthier. We want to give people homes. We want people to earn money. Sometimes people get really attached to the process by which we do this, and that like supersedes the importance of the outcome. Like even if you can point to the fact that a process doesn't work, people will be so attached to that particular process that they'll fight you, even if it's not giving you the outcomes that you want. And so we get into this weird world where you can't really talk about these issues at all anymore without just being labeled as somebody that hates like the outcome that the process is trying to affect. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think it's pretty self-sabotaging on the part of activists, because like the emails I get behind the scenes, not on Twitter where there's spectators, are even, my average friend or listener, I think, is basically like an Obama liberal. Even they are like pretty skeptical of these treatments, or at least transitioning kids who are very young. And you're not going to make them less skeptical by yelling at them for being a bigot. Like, these are actual parents making serious medical decisions about their kids. And I think pathologizing this conversation hasn't helped. And the response to the Atlantic article was so over the top and cartoonish that I think it like, I don't want to exaggerate the importance of my work. I guess I'm more giving credit to the activists. Like, there were years when major outlets just didn't cover this subject with any of that rigor or care. And I think we're coming back a little bit now. Like, there's been some good stuff in the New York Times and the Washington Post, but there was a real dead period there where like the only view you heard about this in mainstream outlets was a very oversimplified activist view. And again, I don't know, man. I think if you're an activist and you want to expand access to these treatments, that I just think there's some people on the left addicted to calling everyone a bigot and suggesting there's no such thing as good faith disagreement, and that it's satisfying in the short run and it'll get you a following and get you likes and retweets and maybe get you a YouTube audience, but it's not going to work in the long run.
Yeah, there was a quote that I had, I saw recently that was really interesting to me, and it's basically the idea that if you make it impossible for reasonable people to disagree, the only disagreements that are ever going to be stated are by people that hate it. Right.
Yeah.
That because I think, like you said too, I think that sometimes activists miss a lot of well, where is the national conversation on this, right? Where is everybody on this topic? They're nowhere near where Twitter is. They're really, really far away, or from the more activist point of view. But when you make it so that center left people or well-meaning people aren't able to have any kind of conversation about this, well, there's going to be two conversations we see. One is going to be the hardcore activist conversation, and the other is going to be conservatives saying you're trying to turn all kids trans. Those are the only people that are allowed to occupy that space, because now anybody that might have a question is not able to say anything because they're going to be grouped in with the conservatives immediately, though,
Yeah, it was totally coincidental, but just today I published this long piece on my newsletter about these researchers who published what I think is a really misleading paper on puberty blockers and hormones. And if I'd done the same sort of social science debunking on any other subject, I would have gotten what I'm saying is it's basically only the heterodox liberals and the conservatives retweeting it. This is a very important subject, a very societally important subject, but liberals sort of know you're not supposed to show any skepticism of here. You're not supposed to give any quarter to Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott in Texas and the other transphobes, which it makes it hard to talk about a genuinely difficult scientific subject.
Yeah, which is frustrating. Let's see. I'm trying to think of because I talk about this kind of stuff a lot, so it's kind of a circle jerk right now. We agree with each other.
Well, I mean, the thing of whether what you said about non-binary stuff was interesting to me, because when I read those articles of what it means to be this. Hold on one, man. This was that food delivery.
Yeah, no problem. Go for it.
Hello. Sorry about that. I'm back.
No, you're good.
What I've found is, when I read other people's accounts of what it means to, for example, be non-binary, it'll often be things like, I don't identify with traditional notions of masculinity. And I sort of sometimes had the same reaction as you, where it's if I'm going to take that definition really seriously, then that might mean I fit the bill too. And I think where there's probably an interesting conversation to be had that we're not having for all the reasons we've talked about is it helpful or unhelpful to draw the line there, where if you don't meet these criteria for being a man, you're not a man and shouldn't identify as one. And what I hear from some gay people, including my co-host, is they sort of feel like if they were coming of age today,
they might be trans.
Yeah, or at least they would get, and I don't mean that in a sinister way, because I think most kids don't go on hormones. They're not getting medical treatment anyway. I think we should be concerned about the ones who do, but it does, would Katie Herzog be better off if she'd been told as a teenager she wasn't really a woman because she was a lesbian tomboy type? And I think that's an interesting question, especially when it comes to how we're going to teach 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds about sex and gender.
I don't know if this exists anywhere in the literature, because it's usually all I'm reading are studies. Recently, it's just relating to trans athletes, right? So I haven't dug a lot into the social science stuff. But it feels like in talking to people, I feel like there are two different types of dysphoria, where it feels like on one end you have I would just call it there's real sexual dysphoria, and these are people that have a really deep-seated kind of disgust or disattachment from their physical body. So these are the people who I would imagine when you start going on hormone therapy, hormone replacement, HRT, or if you start getting surgeries, these are the people where the medical interventions have massive benefits, because you're bringing the body in mind, or in line with the mind. These are the people that benefit from that the most. And that's kind of been my more traditional understanding of transness, I guess. But then I feel like there's this second dysphoria that is becoming more popular, and it feels like a social dysphoria, where kind of like what you said, it's not this kind of extreme biological dysphoria. It's more just there's a set of roles or behaviors or even appearances that men or women have in society, and I want to match that more. I love you. And not you. Sorry, my wife.
Hey, that's very nice of you. We just met, but I appreciate it.
I'm a lot more, at the risk of sounding bad, I guess, I'm a lot more skeptical about that one requiring medical intervention, and more just like, I think we need to have more conversations around that. Those two, I don't know if there's anything that exists like actually detailing that, but like I feel like that there's a huge distinction to be made between the social dysphoria and like the sexual biological dysphoria.
Yeah, no, there's no research on it, and in fact, I sort of think there's pressure to not talk about those differences, and I think it's partly like within the trans community, there's some long-standing dispute over that. Like, the too cute trans medicalist thing.
Too cute trans medicalist thing. I know what trans medicalism is. I don't know what the too cute thing is.
It's just this long-standing Tumblr fight between, basically on that question, like one side saying that unless you like really hate your body and have physical dysphoria, you're not trans. The other side saying that you're trans if you say you're trans, and the latter side has completely won. Like when we talk about transness,
unquestionable.
Yeah, and I just think those are such different experiences. I mean, like, so there's the idea that me walking down the street, 6'4" male person with a beard, if I don't identify as male, but there's nothing flagging that. I don't really experience oppression day to day versus someone my age who decided to physically transition. That fucking sucks. That's where you're at risk of being assaulted or being harassed. And to lump those two experiences together, I'm not sure it's useful, but I can understand why, from the LGBT community's perspective, they don't want to exclude people. They don't want anyone doing that gatekeeping. But I don't know. I think I'm, again, just agreeing with you that they seem to be very different experiences.
Yeah, and this is like, I think gatekeeping is kind of important. Like, everything can't be everything. We want to gatekeep some experiences because we want to have like a special set of considerations made for certain experiences, right? I think gatekeeping can be pretty important sometimes. And I do agree with that. Although, again, it's like impossible to start to draw this distinction without, being immediately attacked. But like the idea that a person that has no dysphoria whatsoever, like that person has a far different experience than somebody that has a lot of dysphoria, right? Markedly different. It's almost not, I don't want to say it's not the same thing because they're not both trans. I guess you could be trans and not have dysphoria, but like your life is going to be way different. And that's kind of an issue that I've ran into sometimes on Twitter, where I'll run into these people that are like, I am like non-binary or trans, but I have like, my gender expression is 100% male. I grow a beard. I'm making no effort to even socially transition. I don't really experience dysphoria, but I'm trans. And it's like, okay, but like, is it even worth mentioning at that point? It makes me wonder sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to talk about without getting attacked, but I don't know. I feel like if you're on this side that is saying we should understand sex and gender in a new way, and what they're arguing is for a pretty different way of understanding those concepts, where it's all self-ID. I think you need to at least make the argument and not expect that everyone is going to go along with it or not have questions. I think it would be a lot more useful to talk about this stuff, basically.
Yeah, here's like a general trend too that I've kind of noticed. I don't know if are you 38? Did I read that?
38, yeah. Unfortunately.
Okay, so I'm 33. Something that was kind of interesting to me is I feel like, especially in the 90s with boy bands and everything, and in the early 2000s, I feel like we were spending a lot of time in society kind of like widening the acceptable behaviors and appearances of like the genders, right? Tomboys and girl next door was becoming more popular. White guys were starting to wear jewelry. I remember like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. You had like guys.
Oh, dude, even like Prince and David Bowie, even before.
Yeah, that. Sure, but like. It was becoming more mainstream, like even more, like you had like the whole metrosexual movement. It was becoming like super mainstream.
Yeah.
And that's why I pointed out too that like white men were starting to do it as well. But it feels like something like broke to where we were widening all the gender roles, and now it feels like things are narrowing again to where, well, you're not actually like, we don't have these 50 million different ways that a woman can express herself. There's like one pretty set in stone way, and now any other way is some sort of trans identity. Like now you're either like non-binary, femme presenting, now you're like a male lesbian, now you're like, it feels like all of the kind of expression that existed within male and female is kind of being erased, and now it's all being labeled as different types of gender identities, which is like really strange to me.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this because there are other cultures where you have third genders, and sometimes activists hold them up as like more enlightened than us. Usually that's not the case. Usually it's like this 5-year-old boy has a lisp and acts in a girly way and he likes to cook with his mom, so he's not really a boy. It's like, it's very regressive. And I think some of that is creeping in here. I guess what I'm torn about is it might be useful and adaptive in certain conservative settings. So if, like, let's say there's a kid marooned in like rural Texas, no offense to any Texan listeners, but I'm from Boston, so I'm very judgmental. But let's say there's like a girly 14-year-old who wants to wear lipstick and who wants to put on nail polish. It might be useful in a sense for them to have a category genderqueer or non-binary just to like shield them from some of the macho bullshit they'd face otherwise. But I don't think anyone thinks that in an ideal society where we'd broken down gender roles, people would be like, oh, you're putting on lipstick, you're not really a guy. Guys should be able to wear whatever the fuck they want. And I do worry that it's like after a period of usefully stretching these boundaries, it seems to be getting more restrictive. And I can speak from a little personal experience on this because like I'm a big guy. I play some basketball and stuff, but like I was sort of pudgy and like a little bit lispy and stuff when I was in like 7th grade. I remember playing football and it was crazy to me. The other dudes liked tackling people and getting tackled. I hated that shit. I was like, oh no, what if I get hurt? So I was like, in that sense, you have all these messages that you're supposed to be this big, tough, masculine dude. And I didn't identify with any of it. I'm not saying I had as bad an experience as like a truly gender nonconforming kid, but like I've often not hearing accounts of this stuff that are any more complicated than like, yeah, gender roles suck. And sometimes we sort of, they grade against us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I guess like broadly speaking, it sucks that it feels like there are no, we've already said this. It feels like there's no place to have any conversation like this anymore. Here's kind of a question I have along these lines. So my big cope over the last 5 years is usually when I argue with conservatives and they point out like crazes on Twitter. 5 years ago, I used to say like, okay, you are pointing to somebody that has like 2 likes on Twitter. This is not a relevant person. Like nobody is actually saying this. You're finding like the most extreme examples on Twitter. But I feel like increasingly, Twitter is becoming more and more relevant or reflective of or influencing the real life discourse. Do you feel like that is the case, that it feels like the Twitter conversations that used to be just strictly crazies on Twitter are starting to leak more into academic administration journal? Yeah. No
question. And it sucks because I was in the camp in 2014 or 2015. I started to get somewhat interested in like a liberalism, for lack of a better word, like a liberalism in lefty spaces. But I was in the camp who was like, it's mostly just college students. We should call it out, but like it's conservatives trying to exaggerate it. It's not that big a deal. I've done a complete 180 on that because when I watch the way my people, the journalists, the way they cover like the most Twitter frenzied stories, I've just been really radicalized. Like this goes everything from Covington to the Google memo to the Jacob Blake and you
messaged me about oh my god, that was my other huge drama that was I lost a partnership on a website where I've been partnered for like I think 10 years because of my takes relating to be fair, I was really spicy, I'll admit that, so not necessarily one-to-one, but I got so much pushback socially. I think I was the only left-leaning person on the entire fucking internet that like watched all the videos and was like, this is so obviously self-defense, guys, like are we like what's happening?
You mean for Rittenhouse, right?
Yeah, of course. And it was like, it's not even like contentious. It's not even contentious to say that. Like there are some esoteric arguments of like, well, should he have been there? Like, okay, yeah, that's like legitimate to explore maybe. But in terms of what happened,
it's not legally relevant though.
Yeah. Well, it might be depending on how things are brought up. But yeah, I agree. But it was so crazy when I would talk to people, like even people would come to me. Other large creators would come to me to argue with this. I'm like, didn't you see the part where Rittenhouse was on the ground just firing shots, firing magazines into whole crowds?
Fucking knocked over. Like it's a parallel. This is what's freaked me out too. And the first time this happened to me was with the Covenant kids. I was on this I'd been on this listserv for 15 years. I left it a year ago because it just got too crazy. But I'm like fucking Zapruder filming the Covington video, like frame by frame. I'm like, at 1:23:16, you can see the kid, and people just act like they're watching another video. It's. I don't like the way we over.
Was that the one where it was the white like high school kid with the indigenous people and the drums?
Yeah.
Or? Okay.
The guy is just banging a drum and he's not responding at all. He's just sitting there nodding and it's the same thing where it's like, I don't understand how these people who I agree with on so much, it's like they're watching an entirely different video. And if we can't even agree on like
what we're seeing,
it worried the shit out of me. But that's what I'm getting to. I think what motivates a lot of shitty reporting is that the first version of these stories plays out on Twitter. Journalists are glued to Twitter, myself included, sometimes 16 hours a day. As soon as something happens, you know how your friends feel about it, how your colleagues feel about it. So if Covenant or let's use the Rittenhouse thing, because that's more recent. If the Rittenhouse thing happens and you know that every other journalist is convinced this kid is a Nazi, it's going to take like pretty big balls or ovaries to be the one journalist who writes the piece. It's like, no, he's not a Nazi. And in fact, it would have been really difficult for me to write that for a major outlet. So I did it on my newsletter, and it was one of my most successful posts there. So when you say it's hard to have conversations, I agree with you, except I think spaces like your stream or my newsletter or even the bigger Substackers, I think stuff is opening up because like people aren't that stupid. There are people who are actually curious in the facts of the matter and like what Kyle Rittenhouse actually did or didn't do. So I think there's some hope there.
Yeah, I hope so. But the issue is that like when I want to, if I am wanting to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, I want to talk to people that share my like moral philosophy or share my same moral foundations. I don't want to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse with a conservative that thinks that white people should have shown up and just started indiscriminately like killing protesters because they shouldn't be right. But the problem is when I start tweeting, those are the people that show up. They're like, yeah, Destiny's base. Like, oh my God, true. Like Rittenhouse should have killed more of them. He should have killed 20 of them. And it's like, Jesus, no, that's not my position.
No, dude, I've had the same thing where I will get people in my mentions who are just downright creepy and don't agree with me and on other stuff. But yeah, I don't know a way around this. When I write about like problems in the puberty blocker research, I'm only going to get conservatives willing to publicly agree with that. But I think that I wouldn't write about that issue if I didn't think it was important for everyone. I don't know what to do about that. It sucks.
Yeah, because I want to bring people that are already like center left or far left into these conversations. These are the ones that I want to talk with these things about, right? Because we at least we share like a similar moral foundation, so we can have, you know, like, oh hey, like let's talk about like was this right, was this wrong, like what's going on. But yeah, they seem impervious to those conversations, I guess.
It's so frustrating. It's and again, I don't mind when Twitter randos do this shit, but why did you become a journalist if you're not interested in the truth? That's a very bad combination. Like, you can get paid more to do public relations or work for the ACLU or whatever. Go do that. I want them out of my area. I'm getting very territorial about it.
Yeah, something that I've heard. Journalists are a pretty insular crowd, I guess.
Yes.
So, but I have a few friends that I've talked to that have worked for a couple mainstream publications, and then I've read articles that have come out. I'm sorry, totally unrelated. Did you follow the whole thing with the? I think he was a longtime writer for the New York Times, and he did two different like retreats, kind of with kids.
Yeah, it's the most. This is Donald McNeil Jr. This is. Dude, if any of your audience still has faith in the way mainstream outlets function, don't read about this.
Yeah, no, anyway. we read it all on stream. It was
okay.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was just like, no.
It was also so perfect because like one of the things animating all this is there's a severe class problem in journalism. It's mostly rich kids who enter journalism, and I'm one of them. I'm from like a affluent Boston suburbs, but like. You know, this was on a fucking resume building trip for wealthy kids, and they were offended. Anyway, there have been a lot of stories like that. Crazy.
That one in particular, I think he wrote like a whole like 4-part thing, just reading through all of it, like how other people. I've been like, because I've done like a lot of, you know, sponsor stuff, corporate stuff, so I see like all the corporate speak, and it makes me cringe when I understand like what's being said and everything, and like listening to him doing his meetings with the management and the people calling. Oh God, it was all just like, it was legitimately a triggering experience watching it happen, or reading through, I guess, like his recollection of everything that happened, but yeah, it seems like harkening back to that, journalists are kind of like an insulated crowd. It seems like sometimes, I don't know if you've ever read, there was a story, it might have been a 538 thing, but basically like everybody that does politics is like a freak. Like we're very much like outside the norm of what is like an average like U.S. citizen or average voter. We're very, very much selected for a hyper-specific group of people that focus on hyper-specific issues. And I wonder sometimes when it comes to like journalist crowds, it feels like there's kind of a maybe not explicitly enforced point of view that you have to have, but it seems like there is kind of like a line that is invisibly being kind of towed by everybody. And if you're not, you're gonna see like a lot. Oh,
I think it's pretty.
You think it's pretty explicit? No? Okay,
yeah. I mean. Just because we're talking about the trans stuff, like the sports stuff you got in trouble for is a really good example, where the average person, including the average liberal, understands that like there's something a little bit complicated here. But for like 3 years, every outlet from The Nation to the New York Times to the New Yorker, things have gotten a little bit better lately. But for a while, it was all we heard was that, it turned out we don't really know who's male and female. We don't really know if post-pubescent guys are better than girls at sports. It was like,
yeah. Everything becomes a question of like to where, and I agree that like, what did you major in for philosophy?
I mean, I was a shitty philosophy major. I did a lot of I did a little bit of everything. I was not good at it.
Okay, if I use words like ontology, like you understand. Yeah. Like I could understand in a very dry academic forum having a discussion about like the ontological properties of male and female. That and those are fun discussions. I enjoy that. I think that's because I'm a loser.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit high, but they're good discussions.
Yeah, but if I'm in a public forum and somebody asks me like, do you think we can know what a man or woman is? You have to be willing to answer that question. And now I'm not alluding back to the Supreme Court justice when she was asked on the nomination bench, because I can understand why she might not want to answer it specifically, but I think that you need to be ready to have like, there are varying levels. One of my big complaints when it comes to academics is kind of this unwillingness to step down and talk to normal people like normal people, because because there's this big problem where if you're going to start to say stuff that everybody, liberals and conservatives will look around and be like, wait, hold on, we all understand this, why don't you? I feel like you totally lose your hold on the average person, because they're going to look at like, DeSantis in Florida. They're going to look at people. They're going to look at people like him and be like, okay, this guy understands reality. And then they're going to look at like the left. That's unfortunately the communications are dominated by the far left, and they're saying things like, well, I don't know if we need women's sports, or is it really that big of a difference between men and women competing, or right? And they're going to be like, well, hold on, you guys are fucking crazy. And then you automatically cede so much ground to the right just because you don't want to acknowledge like some maybe a kind of uncomfortable truths about like what is real, like descriptively. That it drives me crazy.
I want to say you're gift wrapping something for Republicans. Yeah. It's like even more than that. You're literally taking it inside their house and physically handing it to them, because it is the easiest thing in the world to say, look, women are adult human females, but I think to be kind and decent people, we should include certain other people in that category. And we should do whatever we can to respect their identities. But there are a few settings, as everyone knows, where maybe biological sex should win out. I just explained that in like 3 sentences that I think like most people would agree with. I think the vast majority of people of any political stripe, if you tell them, well, we don't really know what a woman is anyway, they know you're full of shit. And it doesn't matter if there's some academic sense in which what you're saying is sort of interesting to the 0.5% of the population with a philosophy degree. It doesn't work politics-wise.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And then for people like me who are, I would hope would be seen as sharing like most of the same kind of like moral foundations as most of the people on the left, it makes my job impossible, because I noticed this a lot. Wait, give me. Oh, okay, it came back. I don't know why that just happened. Something that was frustrating to me is half of my family is Cuban from my mom's side. I don't know if you know anything.
Oh, dude, I was just there for a week.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cuban people that come to the United States are very conservative. So my Cuban family is like ride or die conservative. And it used to be that when I would argue with them in the past, like 5 years ago about Trump things, I could point to like very resolutely, like, look at this, like conservative media is insane. Okay. Like I understand if you might think CNN, New York Times, Washington Post is a little bit biased, but like, dude, look at this, Mom. Like, how can you possibly do this? Now, when I have these conversations, I like immediately have to backpedal, or I immediately have to say like, okay, there are like 5 or 6 major stories that like some of the mainstream media has gotten really wrong. Those Covington kids was a big one. And when I have to start off all of these conversations with conservatives, like immediately conceding to these horrible biases, it's like, well, fuck, I don't actually blame you for not even believing me. Like, why the fuck would you listen to me,
Yeah. I still think that in many ways the right-wing fake news ecosystem is bigger and more developed.
Sure,
but at this point, we're sort of quibbling over. The fact is things have gotten much worse on the left, and I can't really argue. I hate that when conservatives complain to me about stories being misrepresented. Like you, I don't know what to say other than like I kind of agree. I just think that on average, lefty media is still a little bit better, but it sucks that it feels like the gap has been closed quite a bit.
Yeah, I used to, something that I think a statement I made a year or two ago was that I used to tell people that like misinformation is bad no matter where it comes from equally. And people get really mad. It's like, well, isn't misinformation on the right worse than the left? And it's like, I think the right lies more. But the problem is that, and we all know this from our personal lives, once you lose trust, it's almost impossible to get it back. And if you tell a few lies, then you're like, you're going to lose like all trust. And then at that point, you've basically ceded ground to where, people view the right and the left as equally credible, which when it comes to media, I don't think that's true right now. I don't think that's true. And when it comes to sciences and stuff like that, it's not even remotely true. But it feels that way when you get people that are sometimes eager to embrace like a half truth or sell a certain narrative just because they think that it plays into their social views or something. It's so irritating to me. Yeah, man. It's bad. I vividly, I don't watch much Tucker Carlson, but I remember after the Covington Catholic thing, I was at a exercise bike on Planet Fitness. I have a very luxury life, as you can tell. And I watched him like go off. He's like, look at what they're doing to these kids. This is what the left wants to do to your kids. And I thought it was like fucking brilliant. Like, I don't like Tucker Carlson, but I was like, I don't really know how to argue with this. Like, a bunch of big name people literally said they wanted to punch this kid on the face. They called them harassers. It was just, I don't know, man. There's it's really bad. But again, I don't know. It could be your space and my space are in different places, but I do think the sort of rise of crowdfunded things has improved stuff. I also think that at places like the Atlantic and the New York Times, they understand that business model wise, they can't be propped up by Trump forever. Like, Trump was really good for their business. Yeah, of course. But they can't write stuff that only 5% of the country is interested in. So I think they're diversifying a little, which is useful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? No, I mean, I'm sort of curious. Do you think like your average, because I think you have a younger crowd than I do. Do you get the sense like the people who tuned into this have sort of totally given up on mainstream outlets? Because I'm worried that can also go too far. And you can get to the point where like you're getting your news from some like weird disgraced doctor on YouTube or whatever, which is also bad. Oh, I guess to go along with that. So here's another issue is that the space that I want to occupy is already filled with fucking losers. Okay. So like in my ideal world, I hate even saying this word. It feels dirty. I want to be somewhat of a centrist. I want to be a guy that can like consolidate or synthesize views from the left and right and then give you like an accurate, like, this is what you should think based on my left-leaning values. Like, I want to be that person that like is not super biased when they're confronting right or left-leaning stories. But like all the people that say that they do that are, I guess, I don't know what your media flavors are, so maybe you like these people, but people like, I think it's Eric Weinstein, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin. Are you familiar with these guys? No, I don't like them, and I've soured on them even more lately. Yeah, because the problem is, like, as much as I'll criticize mainstream media, which I will, these people are horrible. These people are... Pool in particular is just, like, insane, and people... It's unfortunate that we give him an opening where someone like him has such easy fodder to respond to, because he's not a serious or honest person. Yeah. But these are the people that are now seen as like, oh, not Eric Weinstein. I think it was Brett Weinstein. Sorry. Brett is the other one. Yeah. These are the people that are seen as occupying that enlightened centrist, unbiased middle ground, or like Joe Rogan. Right. And it's like, okay, well, fuck. Like if I market myself as that kind of person, like I don't want to occupy the same space as these people, because I don't think these people are honest actors either. Right. These people are just really like reactionaries. Right. They're saying the mainstream media is bad, and I'm going to tell you the exact opposite of whatever the mainstream media says. Make sure to buy your ivermectin tablets. Like that's what these people do. And it's like, okay, well, fuck, this isn't any better. Right. It's the same problem, just on the opposite side now, Yeah, I'm biased because I'm completely biased because I went on Rogan once. I think he's a little bit different. I think he is not good at evaluating evidence on issues like ivermectin, and I think his system of like, I'm gonna have my producer do fact checking in real time does not work when he has a charlatan on, which he does too often. But I think I find a lot of his interviews like, I can listen to them. He has interesting people on. He doesn't push back. I think what someone like Poole is doing is really different, where I think it's just like intentional lying in a way that I personally don't think Rogan does, but your mileage may vary. My issue with Rogan is that I think he's irresponsible. It's not going to be, I don't think he's as focused in delivering a hyper-partisan thing like I think Poole is. My issue with Rogan would be, because if Rogan will platform almost anybody, although they tend to fall to the right and then like never push back. I remember watching, I have read so much related to vaccine related stuff and COVID-19 stuff, because it was a really big debate topic for everybody in these spaces. So I got really familiar with it. Listening to that one, is it John Malone? Is that the guy's name? Robert Malone, the guy who quote unquote invented RNA vaccines, which is not true. Listening to that whole episode just made me want to tear my hair out. And the only thing that bothers me sometimes is when people are like And I think Rogan does this. Now, again, I don't think he's a malicious actor, but I think sometimes he selectively pushes back against stuff, because I feel like there are a bunch of things that Malone said that if it would have come from a like pro-vax person, he would have been like way more critical of a lot of what was being said. But Malone could get away with just saying, you know, claim after claim after claim after claim, like, oh, like these doctors said this. But if it was like a pro-vax guy and somebody's like, oh, these doctors said this, you know, Rogan would be like, well, that's just a few doctors, you know, is that really like quantified in a study? Well, but when Malone says it, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, okay, sure, you know. So that kind of stuff with Rogan kind of drives me crazy. But
I think they're like different skill sets where Rogan is, I think, pretty good at like carrying an entertaining, winding, random 2 or 3 hour conversation. That's a very different skill set from having someone like Malone on and needing to make sure misinformation doesn't leak out to your audience in real time. That's like an incredibly labor and expertise intensive thing to do over a 2 hour conversation.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Unfortunately, though, I'm sure you remember, did you ever watch The Daily Show growing up?
Dude, I'm so sad about the latest Jon Stewart thing.
I didn't even want to go there, but yeah. But
I haven't watched it, but I know because I already know what he's gonna say because it's the fucking white fragility bullshit. But yes, I was a huge fan of him. I was a huge fan of Colbert even before. I'm not hip, but I was into Colbert before he was cool because he had an amazing circa 2000 Strangers with Candy, an amazing sitcom with Amy Sedaris. I love those guys growing up. I was a little bit of a comedy nerd, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I used to agree with Jon Stewart a lot on. I'm sure you saw his when he went on Crossfire, right?
Yeah, a famous clip from like 2004, I want to say.
Yeah, and I agreed with him 100% that like it's not fair to hold him to some high standard. I think he was saying like, you know, you're expecting me to do serious media interviews, and my show was followed by puppets that do crank calls or whatever. I agreed with him when he said it back then. I don't think I agree anymore because I don't think it's enough to just say that like, you know, this is just for entertainment, because I think a lot of people end up getting all of their political like education through entertaining sources, whether it's YouTubers or Twitch streamers or comedians or whatever. I think that a lot of people, the vast majority of their political information comes from people like this. And I don't think it's enough anymore to just say like, oh, well, it's just comedy, LOL. Of course, we're not being fair here, you know? Yeah.
Well, I think the difference between 2004 and today is like, because media was so gatekept for so long and there was so little of it. I mean, in the 1960s, everyone watched Walter Cronkite. He was like the voice of authority. It turns out that if you give people something like a free market of informational choices, they will not naturally gravitate to the best or most credible ones. They go to
the most entertaining ones.
Yeah, or the ones that just reinforce their biases, whether their bias is that the CDC is right or the CDC is hiding something. And I think one thing we haven't been able to grapple with is like, you can't force people to. If you go on Twitter for any length of time, you'll see these people posting the most visited pages on Facebook, and they're furious that it's like Ben Shapiro or whatever, and they're convinced that the Facebook algorithm is somehow rigged against better media sources. And they haven't really come up with a way of dealing with like, no, people prefer the hyper-partisan stuff. People prefer the partisan stuff. And I don't think any of us know like what consensus reality is going to look like in 20 years, or if it's still going to exist at all. If this trend continues, it's genuinely dangerous, just like for a democratic society, I think.
Yeah. So I guess a broader conversation that I'm curious, like where do we go from here? How do we go from here? Because I feel like our media environment is, and every generation says this, right? It's worse than it's ever been. But I think we can make a strong argument with the way that technology works in social media and the way that everybody has access to these types of things. I think we're in a uniquely bad period for like information literacy and media. And it feels like it's only getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, no, I mean, I basically think we're fucked. And I think the sheer fuckness of our situation will reveal itself the next time there's a really close American presidential election. And it won't even matter if there's credible allegations of fraud. I think the next time it comes down to like one state like it did in 2000, given media consumption habits, I don't think either side will accept that the other side won. And I think that'll bring us to like a new dangerous area. I don't think we're gonna have like a civil war. I think Americans are too bloated and lazy for that, but I think we're gonna have like a really slow, potentially painful decline of just like things are gonna stop working, and I'm really worried about that. And I just see very little reason to hope not to bum everyone out. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think some people get triggered when I say this, but like when I look at like January 6th, I think that the main problem with January 6th wasn't that like it was Republicans, or wasn't that they were storming the White House, or like, I think that those things are bad, kind of, but I think the problem was that
technically, like, what those people were doing on January 6th was probably a righteous action if it was the case that our elections were being stolen. The problem came down to, like, what factual realities people were living in. You had a group of people that legitimately thought that, like, ballot boxes were being, stuffed under tables, that, there were governors or whatever that were certifying things. And I don't know, like, there were like a million videos and shit that people were saying that Trump literally himself was saying that, like, all the mail-in voting was all fraudulent. And I think that from these different, like, information realities, you're going to have behaviors emerging from them that are technically fully justified and make sense, but only within the context that these people are living in a fantasy world. And I think Trump, unintentionally, because I don't give him credit for anything, because I really don't think he's that smart, but I think he kind of unintentionally stumbled into this, like, almost like this Russian propaganda thing where you can just basically say or do anything, and even if people know not to take you 100% seriously, they feel like everybody's the same. So you're in this world where nobody can, like, trust anything, And yeah, I don't know. It's really worrisome.
I'm going to a sportsbook website to see what the over-under is on how long it'll be before someone tweets that you support the January 6 rioters.
I've already had those conversations. Right. And people say I do. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
I have found the we don't need to veer too often into this, but it's been interesting. I don't know much about Russia, but watching this, like, audacity of Putin's lies and just saying stuff that everybody knows is false except for his allies, and I guess Russians without access to other information. Like, I've come to better understand why Trump loves the guy so much. Like, this is that there's such power in being able to say shit that isn't true, but be able to A, get away with it, and B, have people cheer you for it. I can see how that would get, like, kind of addictive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I can make it really. You don't have a music background, do you?
Not much of one now.
Okay. It's just, there's like this freeing moment where the words aren't really important. And in a way, you could say that Trump actually, like, he actually achieved this in a perfect manner, because I guess the living embodiment really of Russian propaganda is when people would say, what was this saying? People would say this all the time when I argue about Trump. Like, it's not like you don't listen to what he says, but you believe how he says it or something. What am I thinking of?
Take him seriously, not literally.
Yeah. Take him seriously, not literally. Which I think is how, like, Putin speaks, Like, and I think that Russians aren't stupid. I don't think that, like, when Russians see all the media coming out, they're like, oh, this is 100% factual. It's more just like, Putin probably knows what's going on. I think he's got a grasp of things. Like, Western media lies too. This is just kind of the story we're being told. Everybody tells their own stories. It's this idea that, I don't remember what it was. I read a long article a long time ago about how Russian propaganda works, and it was really illuminating to me. The goal that, like, you're not trying to sell people a whole other reality. You're not trying to make yourself be the only credible person and everybody else is not credible. You're just trying to make everybody look not credible, so people don't really know who to trust, and they'll listen to you because you like the story that they're telling them more than the other stories that are being told. It's almost like theater. And Trump was unintentionally really, really, really good at that. Bowling Green, the massacre. Like,
oh my God, that was crazy.
Alternative facts, like these statements that, like, you couldn't imagine that there was, like, there was room in American discourse for some of these phrases. It's like unbelievable.
He accelerated shit so quickly. Like, the Bowling Green thing alone would have been like a month-long story. That was just one of a million incredibly dumb things that happened. I had forgotten about it for years.
Last night in Sweden. Yeah, what happened last night in Sweden? I don't know. Why? But yeah, who knows? Right.
The other thing is there's I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Václav Havel, I should know the name, but he's a dissident writer, Czech, and he wrote about this idea of, like, in the USSR, you're a greengrocer. You don't have particularly strong political feelings. Why would you not put up the little sign in your store saying you support the revolution, you support communism, given that only bad things can happen if you say otherwise? Like, It doesn't matter how. I think that's part of what happens in places like Russia too, or not as severely, but in some communities here, it's like, it's just socially inconvenient to not pretend to believe stuff you don't believe. And I think people, in a lot of cases, overestimate how many Trump supporters even legitimately believe what he says. I think it's social convenience. They don't want to get in trouble with their friends, so it's weird. Belief isn't like this on-off thing. There's an element of performance to it that I think people should recognize.
Yeah, for sure. Bringing us back to this topic, kind of like on the some of the trans issues or some of the social issues where I feel like there's an acceptable position to have, and you're basically expected to have it even if you don't know anything about it or whatever. I don't know if you've had this experience, but this is something too. Like, I think I have, at the risk of sounding very arrogant here, I think I have a pretty good handle or understanding of like generally the trans experience. And I've talked to people that come at me with heavy disagreements that you don't want to call me transphobic, want to say it, blah, blah, blah. And when I start talking to them, I very quickly realize, like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I don't think you've explored. Yeah, like, you don't actually know anything about the trans experience. You don't know, like, the things that you're saying are wild. Like, some of them can even sound like Republican random talking points. One of the big ones that I've hit on recently is people saying things like, I don't know what you said on this, but I believe that there is an underlying fact of the matter of being trans in the brain. I believe that. And I think that's why medical intervention is so important, why these people have these experiences. But it's become more popular with that self-ID concept that, oh no, like, there are no such things as male or female brains. Like, it's just kind of what people feel. And I was like, I feel like in some ways, based on the trans people that I've talked to and I've read emails from, that's a really invalidating thing to say, because you're basically calling these people morons. Like, why the fuck are you killing yourselves so much of shit if it's just like some shit you're thinking in your head? Like, bro, change your mind, LOL. You know, like, how can you be so dumb? But I notice when I talk to more and more people that people have like less of a grasp on these issues. They can't navigate the conversation well, but man, do they feel fucking strongly about the topics.
That's what's so weird is like people on Twitter, especially, there's so much anger from people who don't know what they're talking about. Last night, someone came at my co-host, Katie Herzog, who she got controversial because in 2017, she wrote an article about detransitioners for The Stranger, a Seattle alt weekly she used to work for. And this person comes at her and says, because of ghouls like you, I was prevented from transitioning for 15 years. And we both jumped in. We're like, how could that be the case? She wrote an article 5 years ago. And it turned out she like literally misremembered who wrote the article she was mad about, that she thinks prevented her from transitioning. And now she's online yelling at someone totally different. People's brains just get so addled when they're marinating in anger and resentment on Twitter or Twitch or whatever. It's not healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And it becomes very much like a kind of a team sports, like everything.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah. And like everything goes too. One of the things that bothers me as well is like, there's this picture of the American Psycho guy where the caption is like, how I sleep at night knowing that my enemies are ontologically evil and all behavior against them is justified. And it kind of feels that way sometimes too, because once somebody's identified you as like the enemy, like all of a sudden everything is permissible too, in terms of how people treat you, the beliefs that they ascribe to you, the characterizations, like somehow everything is fascist these days.
That's
like,
what's weird, man. I thought I'd gotten over just like there's a group of people on Twitter who hate me. I thought I'd gotten over it after the Texas shit went down. You know, they're trying to literally take kids out of the homes of their parents if they transition. People decided that was my fault, which makes a lot of sense because I am the governor of Texas. And a bunch of them started telling me to kill myself, like really earnestly. This is probably just normal in your neck of the woods, but to me, there was just like, and occasionally I would email them back. I'd be like, do you really want me to kill myself? Like, do you really think this? Are you sure you'd feel good if it happened? And they're just like, yeah, absolutely. And it's the kind of behavior where if someone did that in any other setting, if you had like a friend in your friend group who was trying to get people to kill themselves, you'd be like, you're a genuine sociopath. But on Twitter or online, we're just like, no, that's just how people are. They tell one another to kill themselves. It's crazy.
Or even, I don't know anymore about like in your friend group if that would happen. I mean, maybe in a reasonable one, it's so hard to tell like which experiences are normal versus what I'm just getting as like some hyper online shit. But somebody posted in my subreddit yesterday or today, I think, which is really disappointing. I think he was trying to join some real life like trans support group, I guess on Facebook, and they were going through like the process of validating the account to make sure it wasn't like a troll or whatever. And I guess they were basically saying like, we can't let you in because like your friend watches Joe Rogan, so we think he's like a fascist.
Wait, they literally checked?
Yeah, they went through like all the media shit that he'd liked on Twitter or whatever. Like, yeah, we think your friend listens to Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson. I don't even think he had. I think he liked like some peripheral tweet or whatever. But they're like, because of this, like you're probably a fascist far righter and you can't be in this group. And it's like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Yeah.
People want it to be the case that America is like crawling with fascists and Nazis. The truth is a lot more boring than that. There's like, I'm very much on the left. I think Republican economic policy is shitty and like
for sure,
in some cases kills people. But that's really boring. To be like, we need to retake the Wisconsin State House is not as exciting as we need to march in the street and fight the Nazis. And once there's a demand for Nazis to punch, you'll start calling everyone a Nazi. You'll find Nazis everywhere.
Yeah, where you get people where I tweeted this out. Like, it was so crazy how quickly we went from like it's okay to punch Nazis to it's okay to punch people that tell jokes. Because I started to see a lot of social commentary around the Will Smith thing, where people were like, well, you know, he made a bad joke about a black woman, blah blah blah, and it's like, gee, what the fuck? Like 10 years ago, it would have been like, hey, we don't punch people for telling jokes. That's just never acceptable. Like, we don't even punch people for saying racial slurs. It's not like it's not okay. You don't resort to violence. But
I wish I had I'm not a tough guy. I've never been in a fight. I wouldn't do well in any combat situation. But I wish when punching Nazis was like a bigger thing, I'd gone harder on like the sorts of people repeating that on Twitter. Be like, why aren't you out on the streets? If you think we're at that stage where we need to be punching Nazis, why are you like do you know like Arthur Chu? Do you know that name?
I don't, but I might be familiar with his work if you tell me about him.
He's just one of the fucking worst. But he's this guy. He's just this like a shut-in who was bullied, I'm sure, and then used social justice stuff to start bullying other people when, because of Gamergate, he got a bit of a platform. But he's one of these guys who like, he would be useless in any of these situations, but he's telling other credulous people, go punch Nazis. It's like, I mean, are you gonna pay their bail when they get arrested for punching? Why are all these internet tough guys not out in the streets? If you actually think we're on the brink of fascism, this is like what you're saying, like, say what you will of the January 6th people, but they actually, like, they did something. They were dead wrong and they're idiots, but they're actually taking action commensurate with the threat.
That was another thing that I got, and my fan base is still mad at me for saying it, but I said that recently, like, are you familiar, do you know who, like, Lauren Southern and Nick Fuentes are?
Oh God, yeah, you debated Fuentes, right?
Yeah, and so I've got because my comeuppance was debating like people on the far right, but I said that a while ago. I was like, listen, like say what you will about them, like Lauren Southern, when she gets money, she spends all of it like making documentaries about her cause. You know, Nick Fuentes, who's been banned from 50 million platforms, hosts these huge fucking conferences and get like Republican lawmakers to show up for it. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing, right? Why are you tweeting so much? Like, do something, do something. Why is like every big like left wing like online? I don't know if it's true or not. I'm hesitant to even believe this, but like, do you know is it true that the BLM organization bought a $6 million fucking mansion? Did that?
Yeah, there was a long New York Magazine article I need to read, but their finances are just completely fucked. It's really bad.
Yeah, like what the fuck, guys? Like, why aren't we doing anything with all of our money? Like this is another thing I've talked about recently a lot. Like the left still likes to pretend that like we're under attack culturally. Like bro, we won the culture war. Yeah, it's over. Now do something. Yeah. We won the culture war. Like, but it's not enough to see, because, and this is like it's a Republican talking point, but I hate to say it, but like, okay, like we have a lot of liberal legislatures and a lot of liberal cities, and we should have the chance, like, oh man, I'm hesitant to cite Vox stuff because I'm not 100 on their stuff all the time, but I think they did a pretty decent video a while ago that showed that like it might not have been Vox, it might have been a guy from a spinoff from Vox, but in all of the most liberal cities, I think it was like the more liberal the city is, like the worse their outcomes are for like homeless people and shit, because everybody's a fucking socialist when it comes to the United States of America, but people turn into fucking libertarians when it's talking about their fucking neighborhood, right? Like, like we need to help all the homeless people, but not the goddamn homeless person down the street. Get them the fuck out of here. It's like, wait, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, no, I was in Berkeley recently, and I had never really explored much. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful place, but try to build any housing there that someone who isn't a fucking tech millionaire can live in. There's a lot of hypocrisy. I think the broader point is, in an attempt to be constructive, the amount of energy spent patrolling cultural spaces and patrolling newsrooms to try to get wrong thinkers out of them. Again, we've won in those spaces. Like, you have major companies flying the BLM and trans pride flags. Like, we've won. We've won. We should accept the victory. There's so much more work to be done in making sure that vast swaths of America are not governed by right-wing chuds. And if there was more energy spent on that, I think a lot of the messaging would be different, and a lot of the sort of circular firing squad shit would stop. Yeah.
One thing that I get really worried about is how insulated these communities become. I think they start to lose track of what the modern, or not the modern, but the ordinary American thinks. And I think something that we're going to see, if things don't change course dramatically, is especially in minority spaces. We saw it a lot in the last election cycle with, I don't know how much you followed it, but like the frustration that lawmakers had over the ACAB messaging and the socialist shit, because black people and brown people don't like socialism or fucking ACAB messaging.
Sorry, I don't want to talk over you, but in terms of ways journalism is broken, it's been a fact of public polling of black people for decades in America that they feel ambivalent toward the police, that they feel the cops don't show up when we need them.
Sure.
They harass us. Both things are true. There is no black community in America where you get like a positive result when you ask, do you want to abolish the police? Do you want to scale back the number of cops walking the beat in your neighborhood? So watching mainstream outlets pretend that the pro-black, obviously I'm using air quotes there, position is to abolish the police or significantly defund them. It's frustrating because people are it's like identity ventriloquism. You're like holding up a black puppet and pretending that he wants this policy. That policy is favored mostly by white liberals. That's who wants
always.
But if they don't actually favor, because they wouldn't live in a neighborhood without cops. I mean, get the fuck out of here. But that kind of shit drives me crazy. And it actually gets to what you're saying, where it's like, it's not a coincidence that in 2020, black and Latino people actually went toward Trump.
Yes.
And it's moderate white people who went toward Biden.
And the polling on Hispanics, I think it was only one major poll that started to show them almost hitting like equal support for Republicans and Democrats. Maybe it won't be that dramatic, but I feel like because I truly don't, I hate to say this, but I don't think the white liberal knows anything about like the black or Hispanic experience in the United States.
Except for their college classmates.
Yes,
or the people who write for the New York Times, who are not the same.
Who are very white. I get in a lot of trouble for saying that on Twitter, but like a lot of these black colleges are very white.
They're not politically black.
Yeah, like this is not, that's a more extreme statement, but like, you get it, especially people that want to like group all brown people together, right? Like, or even group all black people together, right? Like African immigrants coming from fucking Nigeria are having a way different experience than, I just got an email from a guy saying like, hey, like when I immigrated to the United States, like as a black, I don't remember what country he said from, but he's like, learning how to be black in America was a way different thing than where I came from. It's like, it's a totally
dude, are you telling me that people who come here from Ghana and Nigeria are hoping they'll find a place with no police officers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so crazy. Or that people coming from fucking Venezuela are like, pro-socialism. Like, bro, what the?
Less law enforcement,
Yeah, like, oh god, it's so cringe. I'm worried about. It sucks because I see this happening on both sides all the time, to where like one side is like fucking up so hard, but then the other side is like so eager to throw it back. Where like without going too historical on that, I get worried that like if the Democratic Party loses a lot of support from minority communities, it feels like it's going to take a lot of work to start rebuilding that. It's going to be a lot of effort because I don't think much progress has been made in terms of really understanding or communicating with those communities. And if they get lost to Republicans, my biggest fear, and I've always said this, is if Republicans could just be a little bit less racist, they would have so much more support. If they could just get over their fear of brown and black people, these are like some of the most socially conservative people in the United States. And I think that when those votes start pouring in, I think that you will see the Republican machine quickly switch gears. Because I think that right now, if we were in a colorblind, raceless society, I think that black and Hispanic people would overwhelmingly support Republican messaging over Democrat messaging. Like, what do Republicans talk about? Strong families, traditional family values, like, building communities. Like, these are things that minority communities tend to gravitate towards a lot. It's just because Republicans have such a dog shit history with them that they still vote Democratic. But I think it's way easier for Republicans to adapt their messaging to incorporate minority communities than it's going to be for Democrats to adapt their messaging to talk about minority communities. So they lose them. It's going to be a really big problem, I think.
The other thing is that people overestimate. Trump made that awful comment about Mexico sending its rapists there, illegal immigrants. The assumption is that like all Latinos are going to be outraged by that, but that's not really treating Latinos like human beings. There's obviously divisions among American Latinos, including on things like, it's not like any random Latino person is in favor of illegal immigration. You just need to accept that people are different. There's a really good essay your readers should read. It's called "Being in the Room Privilege: Elite Capture and Epistemic Deference." I can just send you a link to it if I can pull this shit up. Anyway, great essay about by a lefty writer, and his whole point is like the black and brown and other colored people who end up in white spaces making decisions and expressing their views are not like the average members of those communities. If you go to Harvard and you get to write for the New York Times, almost by definition, you are not the average black person. You can obviously say the same thing about white people. White people who write for white people like me are not like working class white people. But I thought that essay did a really good job laying it out from a lefty perspective.
Okay, yeah, we might read it later on stream. The next election cycle has me really worried.
We're fucked. It's just, I think we're fucked. But yeah, I don't understand what the strategy is. I don't understand the tactical decisions. I think people refuse to just learn very basic lessons, including in 2020, that the groups you thought would be outraged by Trump for 2 elections in a row, they did not appear to be that outraged or offended by Trump. That should tell you something about your own values and your own messaging.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. At some point you have to move off of it. Like I cringed like every fucking Saturday when there was another fucking SNL skit making fun of Trump or whatever. It's like, it was funny one or two times, but like, oh my God, like I understand that it's ridiculous, and he is ridiculous. Trump was ridiculous, but like at some point you're going to have to move off it because like the Overton window has moved more than you thought, and you need to be receptive to that. You need to write to that idea rather than like pretending that everybody's still outraged. Yeah.
I think a lot like, I'm stealing this point from a lot of people, including like Matt Iglesias, but a lot of the racial justice stuff, you could get the exact same results policy-wise, but get more people in your tent if you talked about it more in terms of class. This is not poverty. An original observation, but like one of the areas in which America has really failed to live up to its expectations is like how we treat working people, the kind of the way they have to grind in a very wealthy society just to make ends meet. Easy shit to talk about, polls overwhelmingly well, but instead everything is about white supremacy and racism, which are real forces, but they don't explain everything in the way I think class stuff often explains almost everything.
Yeah, or it can. I'm a very intersectional person. I still think that there are important places to talk about race and American society, even regardless of class, especially when we talk about like criminal justice and whatnot. But yeah, like when you're obsessively framing everything through race, I guess you said you haven't watched it yet, but that Jon Stewart, like the white privilege thing, like
white fragility, right?
White fragility. I don't know if they use the term white fragility, but the white privilege stuff comes up a lot. And it's like a working class white American is not seeing this privilege. Like you're never going to connect with them on that messaging ever. It's not going to happen. And it's just, yeah, it's such a loser of a thing to talk about outside of I think that there are interesting academic conversations to have, very dry conversations to have, but I would never in my life make this like my political messaging. You know, it's toxic as fuck.
It's tuned exactly wrong for like our present era. The present era involves a lot of white people sort of falling down the income ladder, and the fucking opioid crisis hit them harder. There's millions of white people who, I don't know, you should tell them that you should have an investment in making society fairer, making the economic system fairer. Instead, you're like telling them this isn't about you. This is about this other group. Yeah. It's not good politics.
Yeah. Well, anything else?
No, this has been pretty depressing.
Yeah, I think it is.
Go jump out a window. No, man, I unless you've got more questions, I appreciate you having me on. We should do it again sometime. This was fun.
Yeah. Oh, do you follow, like, there are a few cool dudes on Twitter. Do you follow Noah Smith?
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Medlock guy?
Medlock.
Oh, he's an interesting Twitter account. He's probably worth following. There are like people that focus hardcore on like social issues, or I'm sorry, I don't know why I said that. Not social. They focus on like economic issues and whatnot, and try to be like a little bit more realistic about, you know.
This is James Medlock.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he'll be Medlock on Twitter. But yeah, I wish that yeah, man, I wish. Fuck, just bringing them up brought like 50 million more things that I want to complain about.
No, talk about. I mean, I'm happy to stick around more.
Just say the obsessive drive over fucking student loan debt like kills me.
Oh yeah.
I just like. Nobody knows anything about college education. Nobody knows that like college education is like the biggest driver of wealth inequality in America. Like if you get a college degree, you are so good compared to the average person. And everybody is on, like, it's so crazy because when you go on Twitter or Reddit, you would think that like college degrees are for losers. Like if you get a college degree, you're fucked. Yeah, it's gonna fuck your life up. It's basically like a fucking like an opiate addiction. You're fucked. But it's like these are so important. But like everybody online pretends that college degrees suck. They don't do anything. And like I see online spaces dominated sometimes by conversations about like, where's our student loan debt relief? Why is it Biden? This is the most important thing he can do to win so many voters over. And it's like, no. I think was it Matt? It might have been Matt Iglesias that tweeted recently that like was he the one that tweeted the median student loan debt is $0?
Zero, yeah. People got really mad at him for pointing that out.
And then, oh yeah, there were a couple really funny Twitter threads on that. Did you see the guy that was arguing with him where he was like, if you remove the 50 richest Americans from the median, what would the median income go from 50,000 to what? And it was like,
oh my God. Sort of messing up.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, but I think a lot of this really just comes down to like, whatever issues are most salient to people with college degrees get the most attention. This is an obvious example of that,
yeah,
right?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Oh, okay. Quite a different topic. I'm curious. I was a really big, coming up 2016, 2017, really big like Citizens United, corporate lobbying, all these stuff. This stuff like destroys all of the American political system. Like it's all the corporations, corporate lobbying, all the money spent on campaigns or whatever. I in getting more aware of kind of how regional politics are in the United States and getting away from this obsession of like, what does the whole US think about something, and starting to look like district by district, I've kind of moved into an area where I'm just curious your general thoughts on this. I feel like the American political system actually works exceedingly well. But I think the problem is that the group of people that vote are not the same group of people that you see represented on Twitter, aren't going to be the same group of people that maybe need representation in our electoral system. And I feel like a lot of the issues that we have with our country don't necessarily come from like undue corporate influence or lobbying, but it just comes due to the fact that like, you know, the types of people that vote typically select for certain issues. And that's why we see like little progress made on certain issues. So to make this a little bit more grounded, during the whole BLM riots, we talk a lot about like, you know, criminal justice reform, like what's wrong with the police? And it's like, okay, well, this is going to be a local city issue. But if you look at the percentage of people that vote in city elections, it's 20% of people. And who are these people? They're white, they're decently wealthy, and they're old. AKA, they're people that will never give a fuck about criminal reform because these aren't people that get arrested. They don't care. So these issues will never change. Yeah, I'm curious. Do you think you have a idea?
Do you know the concept of preference intensity?
No, but based on the two words, I'm going to guess
it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, what elected officials will show more deference to issues that are more relevant to the people that are voting or something.
Yeah, it's basically like if you have 100 people and 90 of them are generally pro gun control, but 10 of them are obsessed gun nuts. The gun nuts are going to win every time because they'll organize people, they'll get voters. And I think that's a lot of what's going on here. Where like, I like your theory. Someone should write that up. Like, American politics actually work well. It's just we should want different people to vote. I think just I don't know much about zoning stuff, but I do find it resonant. And it seems like in most big cities, it's really hard to build more housing and to make housing cheaper. And that's because the people who would benefit the most from that are not voting or are not mobilized.
Or don't live there yet because they can't afford it. So you have a bunch of
literally get pushed out to another shitty
you've got hyper-entrenched homeowners that, to be fair, they're voting in their interest. They just want their property values to go up and they want to protect the character of their areas or whatever. But that leads to, your housing situation being more fucked in the United States than it ever has been, with no solution in sight.
No. And I think it's more satisfying to rail against like greedy landlords, of which there are definitely some, or developers. You can hammer at them all day and get attention for it, but actually solving these problems, from what I know about it, it's really intractable. It's really difficult. I have a friend who actually does his company sort of works for a developer that does mixed income housing in California. Trying to build a single unit of affordable housing anywhere in the Bay Area, like the shit people will come up with, including sometimes they will pretend to have found Native American artifacts where they want to build it, because then that activates a whole other bureaucracy where you need to make sure there's nothing else buried there. It's like, I don't know. I've really soured on liberals from backgrounds like mine, like affluent liberals, because I don't think we actually show that we give a shit about the stuff we claim to care about.
Yeah, it's just all like social kind of signaling on Twitter and shit. Like, I do feel that way too. Like, I don't feel like people care sometimes, and I see it in the way that they speak. Like I'm not gonna pretend that I came from like a crazy ghetto or whatever, but like my background before I got into stream was like very, very, very working class, and especially during the Rittenhouse saga, some of the things that I saw white liberals saying like blew my mind. When you see people saying things like, oh, like it's just property, or it's just like a business, like who cares?
Insane.
Like you've got
Can you
insurance.
and in some cases they're saying this when people are being burned alive. I mean, it's not that there were a huge number of deaths. People did die.
Yeah.
I could not believe that shit, man. That really radicalized me too.
Yeah, and even regardless of death, it's like, man, you say like it's just a business, but like, bro, like some people, like their families will spend their lives like building this shit, or this is like some of the most important stuff in the world, you know, to some of these people. And for people to just, you know, kind of like, oh, it's just property, who cares? It's like, okay, well, yeah, you don't care. Like, I don't care now because if I lose anything, I can replace it. But like, if I was like a working class person, and I've always had like really conservative views on like self-defense. Like, if somebody would have stole my shit while I was going to college, I would fucking kill the motherfucker. I would die protecting my shit because I don't get a lot of shit, right? And everything that I buy is like, this is like 20 hours of me earning $5.25 an hour at fucking McDonald's. Okay, you better believe I'm about to die for my car stereo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like, oh man, the messaging on a lot of that drove me super crazy as well.
We're fucked.
Yeah,
that's the conclusion. We're fucked. But we can. I mean, you and I can make money off the fuckness in the meantime. So it worked out.
True. That is true. But what is the? Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. I truly don't know. I wish that there were more. I hate to say this. I wish that there were more conservatives back on these online spaces. I feel like I feel like there is like a natural tension that exists between two sides that pulls each other to a little bit more realistic positions. And I feel like ever since conservatives basically got axed from most social media that I can see, at least, it feels like the people kind of like slingshotted off on the left into these insane areas where like I've seen tweets with like 20,000 likes of people saying shit like 15 an hour is a slave labor, like 25 an hour is the floor. You know, like people like Brianna Joy or Brianna Gray or whatever the fuck, like these people that are just have these like totally insane positions. Or when I see these people like that Brianna, are you familiar with the Brianna person?
Yeah, I know her a little bit. Brianna Joy Gray, right?
Brianna Joy Gray, yeah. Sometimes I call her Grey Joy because I've got Game of Thrones in my head. But yeah, when I read things like from her, like, oh, like I'm just trying to afford rent, like you don't understand how hard it is, and like these people have like Patreons where they're earning like $20,000 a month, and it's like, are you serious? Like you're literally a Harvard grad. Like, come on, like why are you pretending to be like a working class poor American? Like, oh my god, it drives me crazy.
You should have. Do you know the name David Shore?
Oh yes. Oh no. Yeah, I know him. He got in big trouble over the BLM riot stuff. Yeah, he got fired.
He's at the Vanguard. I think he's only like 30 or something. He, in terms of, just to try to end on a slightly less pessimistic note, people like him have a good grasp on the polling, and they, I think, offer like pretty. There's no such thing as pure objectivity, but pretty objective approaches to like how Democrats should frame shit. And I think the more people realize that the existing consultant class sucks, and the more people realize people like David Shore know what they're doing, the better the left will be if they listen to people like him. You should have him on. He'd be great.
Yeah, I might. I try to bring people like that on when I have something specific to talk about. So if I had a particular topic, yeah, I would bring him on. But we read a lot of his stuff over the MLK riots, like arguably leading to Nixon, the BLM riots, and how the popularity falls when stuff gets violent. He got a lot of heat for that, obviously. But yeah, he's a really interesting data analyst. Like the data wonks are always fun to read because their messaging is oftentimes so much different. than what people are actually talking about. There's almost like no relationship whatsoever. So yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, you probably remember this, but like I was sort of ambivalent between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders during the primary. I thought they both would have been good. There's a lot of fighting between those two camps. I don't think they're that different, but I was wrong. I thought Biden would lose. But there was a moment where during a primary debate, Elizabeth Warren tells a trans kid she's going to let him or her, I'm not meaning to misgender, I forget, veto her pick for Department of Education. Just the most like gonzo, insane, pandering thing. And when stuff like that happens, you're like, what happened to this otherwise like pretty good and I think fairly credible candidate? Who is she listening to who tells her you should announce on national TV to 100 million people this is your view? I just don't know who's like whispering in their ear telling them to be dumb. And I guess in Biden's case, either he's too old to even hear what people are whispering in his ear, or he just knew to ignore it because like his base is fucking South Carolina church ladies who don't care about that shit.
Yeah, I do think Biden did a really good job at holding on to that moderate Democratic vote, resisting all of the cultural pressure because Jesus Christ, is there a lot to it? Now, maybe he's too old to use Twitter, so he doesn't even see it, maybe.
He's like literally physically incapable of using it.
Yeah, he's like, well, I don't even know. Yeah, so maybe it would be different if he was younger. But no, I mean, I like to think he's been in Congress for a long time. He's worked with black communities and women for a long time. I would hope that he's a little bit more connected. I feel really bad because I feel like, I'm pretty, when it comes to economics, I'm pretty grounded. I'm not into the socialism stuff at all. So Bernie Sanders was I would say probably significantly to the left of me in some economic aspects. But I will say that like, I thought Bernie Sanders did a really good job at selling like a pretty extreme economic platform, but his messaging and the way that he communicated was always like pretty effective and pretty grounded. And it feels like when Bernie Sanders left, all of like the Bernie Sanders fans just became fucking insane. There's
a little bit of a cult of personality there, which is not helpful because like he harnessed a lot of useful energy. And I do think like just on the is he too far left thing, I think the reason that doesn't bother me is because of the nature of Congress and because of how hard it is to accomplish anything at the federal level. Like it just doesn't matter. Like whatever his more extreme tendencies would have been cooled off by Congress and by moderates in his own party.
Yeah, which is always like that would have been my thought. That like it's not like Bernie Sanders is going to get in and through like emperorship like decree.
Full communism. Yeah,
full communism or like
not that he's even in favor of that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But yeah, I get a little bit disappointed that like basically like if I find out that somebody was a big Bernie bro, I know this person is going to be batshit insane, which is unfortunate because Bernie himself wasn't. He like I think he was a pretty measured guy and pretty realistic and like had good takes on most things, even if I disagreed with them. But yeah,
it's unfortunate. He's not always well represented by his most ardent followers.
For sure. Yeah. Do you think Trump is going to run again?
I don't see how he couldn't. Like, what else would he do? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't made any strong predictions. I
think I don't. People are like DeSantis would beat him in the primary. I'm sort of like, I don't see how, and I don't know. I'm very worried we're gonna have another Trump presidency, which like would be a real breaking point. But I hope I'm wrong.
I feel like if I'll make this prediction live on stream. I think here it comes. The DGG analyst. I called Biden early. Okay, so we're good here. Okay, I think that if Trump does run again, I think he will win. I think he'll win. I think he'll win bigly. Actually, maybe not bigly, but I think he will win.
If I had to bet my life on it, I'd have trouble betting Biden over Trump. Yeah,
just because like whether it comes down to economic issues or whether it comes down to the idea that like I think Trump was really good for the Democratic Party, like getting all together. Because it gave you like a common enemy to hate and it like super rallied. Because like as much as I like Biden, and I think he's done a phenomenal job as president, like Biden, I don't think Biden is the type of guy that gets more votes than any other president in U.S. history, right? I think that
you mean if you don't have a counterpoint like
correct. Trump was the guy that got Biden more votes than any president in U.S. history because people hated Trump.
I saw this guy, otherwise respect, he's been dipping into conspiracy theorizing. He's like, does anyone actually think Biden got that many votes? I was like, yes, people really hate Trump.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. I super believe it. Yeah. Yeah. If Trump wins again, though, I don't even know. One thing that I will say is I was delightfully surprised at how tenacious the American system is. Because Trump, for all that people say about fascism or whatever, I think that Trump legitimately would be a fascist if he had the power and opportunity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And how that anyone could deny. And this is also part of the reason I don't go too far in the other direction. People are like, half the people who are like, wokeness has gone crazy don't seem particularly concerned that a dude really tried to steal an election. Like the worst thing that can happen to a democracy. They're not concerned by that. They're concerned by the crazy TikTok teachers with green hair, who I acknowledge are annoying and dumb. And I wouldn't want, if I had kids, I wouldn't want them taught by them. But that's maybe not as big an issue as someone trying to steal an election.
Yeah, I did. I had a debate with a bunch of conservatives at a bowling alley recently, and I remember I made that statement where it was like, the craziest thing to me is, however crazy people on the left can be, like, it's crazier to me that Republicans have convinced you guys that like the 1.2% of trans people in the United States, those are like the enemy that are destroying your country. Like it's such a crazy culture war thing, and it's not, you're missing like the bigger picture completely for these niche social issues. But yeah,
it's really insane. There's on both sides, there's an inability to like, I don't know. I can be concerned about the illiberal shit going on in newsrooms and on university campuses without thinking that's the biggest thing in the world. There's certain there's something in the air where everything has to be the biggest thing ever, and I think that's very unhealthy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it was the biggest doomer moments I think I've had are the how blatant a lot of the Trump stuff was just crazy to me. The election stuff where he's like on the phone with the governor of Georgia. I need you to find 24,387 votes. Like, well,
dude, if it was in a screenplay, you'd be like, "This is way too unrealistic. We can't do a fictional film like this. It's crazy."
Okay, I don't know if you're stealing quotes from me, but yes, I've said that exact quote so many times.
Did you? No, I did not.
No, I know, I'm joking, but like, there are so many parts of the Trump presidency that if you tried to write that, people would be like, "Okay, it's another Sorkin dialogue of totally unrealistic bullshit. This would never fucking happen." There were like 27 different moments of the Trump presidency where that shit happened, right? Like, oh my God. This is the most important question I'll ask you all evening. Do you think that Trump really believes that invisible planes are invisible? Because I don't know. I'm not sure, man. Listening to him talk about it.
I think philosophers could argue for thousands of years on just the concept of something that Donald Trump does or doesn't believe. It's such a unique mind that it's like trying to understand 5-dimensional space or some shit.
Yeah. Jesus. How do you think Biden's done so far, I guess, as a president? What do you think?
I think he's done basically fine. I like everyone else, I was sort of alarmed by the Afghanistan thing, but I'm not sure there was any way to pull out that wouldn't have been a fucking disaster, because to me, our presence there was a much bigger disaster than anything related to the pullout. I think he's been fine. I don't think he's inspiring. I think it worries me that I think some people think like Kamala Harris is an actual heir apparent, because I just find her to not be an effective politician. I'd give him like a B. I think some conservatives have done a good job somehow convincing people, including some independents, that like things got much worse when Biden came into office. I just don't see how anyone could believe that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Biden will run again, right? He has to. I feel like, I remember during the primaries he said he wouldn't run again, but I feel like if the Democrats gave up their incumbency advantage, it would be like just unfathomably stupid.
I think he has to run again, even if it's like just to fucking retire the day after.
Yeah. He's like in a hospital bed.
Iron lung.
Yeah. They wheel him out on stage for the debate. He's got like the fucking the Stephen Hawking teleprompter like reading for him.
You know what they should do if he actually dies? Go full Weekend at Biden's, where you just like prop up his corpse and like put a voice box in him.
Jesus, that's really dark, but
we could be headed there.
Maybe. Oh man. Do you okay, actually going back to the topic of the conversation, do you find that are you employed, or do you just like write like freelance? Do you like work for a particular company, or?
We got a Substack gave us in advance for our podcast, so between that and my newsletter, it's working out. I'm lucky.
Okay, gotcha. Were you ever employed by like The Atlantic or anything, or was this just?
Yeah, I was at New York Magazine for 3 years, I think.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you find that like after the trans article, I guess, was it like really hard to find work anywhere, or do you think
it would be a better story and I'd get more subscriptions if I said yes, but no. There's some outlets I probably can't even bother pitching to, like Vice or whatever, but they don't pay me as well as my own newsletter pays me. I know that sounds obnoxious, but it's true. Yeah, no, and then dude, last fall the New York Times had me review a book on trans stuff. So how can I claim I'm canceled when I still get opportunities like that? I do worry that like some of the crazy editors around my age who are real political radicals will sort of be controlling the reins of these outlets in like 5 or 10 years, but the outlets might not exist in 5 or 10 years. So It definitely has created some awkwardness and like people publicly denouncing me on Twitter, but I have not been canceled by any realistic stretch.
Okay. Oh, that's cool then.
But everyone listening to this should check out my jessesingal.substack.com, subscribe today, et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, hey, I'll have that linked in chat. Anything else you want to bring up, or?
No, man. Thanks for having me on. I might try to steal 20 minutes from you to have you on our podcast to hear more about your trajectory as like someone trying to do debate, because I think it's interesting to hear about like how that has worked out for you. So maybe down the road we could do that.
Yeah, anytime. Just shoot me an email and I'll usually respond. So.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for everyone who listened.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a fun conversation.
Peace, dude.
Bye.